Uh, First of all,
Sir, Atul sir will be joining us in a few minutes.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Sir,
Thank you, Mr. Twinkle, for the welcome.
it's my pleasure, sir. Uh, so we will start with the discussion. First, with Professor Bholanath. Sir, what's your, can you give some insight about the startup culture in India as compared to the Western countries?
Sorry for the interruption, sir. We have Mr. Atul Holkar, sir, with us here.
Uh, Thank you, Professor Bholanath. Uh, you rightly mentioned now our startup culture moves to tier 3 city. And Joyo is one of the example. Ye- Uh, so I welcome Lieutenant Colonel Atul Holkar. Sir, welcome on behalf of Rajguru family. I welcome you on this Sunday afternoon. Sir, you are. I think you are on mute, sir. You are not audible. Atul, sir, you are not audible. Okay, not an issue, sir. Okay, Atul, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, now it is clear, loud and clear, sir.
Okay. So,
Sir, welcome you.
thank you so much, for inviting me over for this discussion. And I consider myself to be quite fortunate. And as you said, Sunday afternoon, but what happens for me is Sunday is more busy, right? Immediately after your meeting, there is a startup which is lined up who wants to discuss certain urgent thing in terms of their functioning. At 3 o'clock, I would be interacting with the students of IIFT because I also take classes for business communication. And one of the topics which we have been working on is building your personal brand on LinkedIn. Right, LinkedIn is another great medium where you would you be able to create what you are and at least showcase and create a shop window where people understand. It's like a Facebook for any professional, right? If you are not on LinkedIn, then you are not visible to people who want to hire you. So let me just give a very brief about myself as to how my career journey would be, right? When you moment you say Lieutenant Colonel Atul Holkar, it means he's an army guy, and what would he know about the corporate, right? So I did indeed work in the army for 20 years. I took premature retirement as a logistic officer, but then I moved on to the corporate. When I came to the corporate, I started my journey with Reliance Retail as a supply chain, northern head. And then I kept on moving. And one of the major issue which I was facing was how do I compete in a highly competitive environment? And that is one thing which brought me into understanding that first and foremost for any kind of thing which you're going to do, whether you're going to be into a job, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to do something right in your life, knowledge is fundamental. You cannot start anything unless until your knowledge have that adequate knowledge and skilled in that particular domain, right? So I am a supply chain operations person. So I had to start studying. So I am an alumni of IIM Calcutta, ISB Hyderabad, and IIT Delhi, where I teach as well and study. And then I did some diplomas in Symbiosis International. But then I realized that probably if I need to work outside India, then it will not be adequate. So I had to go to US to study in Kellogg School of Management, and then I did some major course from MIT Boston. While I was doing this, I was picked up by a Dutch firm. I worked in Holland for nearly a year plus, then moved to Africa with the same firm to understand the supply chain management there, and came back to India to head supply chain position of South Asia for PepsiCo. And while this journey was on, I was still not very comfortable. Is this the destiny? I mean, you can't have just one life and one job and one company and say, this is my life. No. So I said, can I do something more? And one pandemic which I saw with everyone was right from a person who leaves his class 12 to the senior most CEO of a large multinational company, and it's called stress of working. We do not know, and all these students who are from Rajguru can understand, we do not design a career. It is circumstances which creates a career. what numbers did I get in 12, what did my friend tell me, what tuition was given to me, what teacher advised me, what my parents pushed me into, and we just got into something. I can assure you that as many as 60% people, in any college, I go to IIMs, I am a visiting faculty to a lot of B school and IITs and some of these, in fact, foreign forums as well. One thing is very sure, that we did not design a career, and that is the number to 85%. And I'm not saying whether the job is good or being entrepreneur is good, but fundamentally we have not designed it, right? And at what stage do you decide to become an entrepreneur? That is again. So I after doing all this, I decided to come into the startup ecosystem. Currently, I have 4 startups of mine. One is called the Art of Working, which help people design and redesign their career. You can always, anytime, quit and say, I want to restart again. No one stops you. Just you need adequate planning to do that, right? So I was in a corporate. I came to the Indian Army. I went to the corporate, was a senior vice president in PepsiCo, and decided to quit. So my family stopped believing me now, because वो तो सोचते हैं कि यार ये पता नहीं अगले दिन कौन सा बम फोड़ने वाला है, ये बोलेगा अब मैं ये भी नहीं करूंगा, ठीक है. So at every stage where I thought I've reached that successful level, I challenged myself to another aspect of life. And I said, I can't do, everyone says startup है यार, startup है. ये एक 21 साल के लड़के को मिलता हूं तो वो startup है. अभी तो 19 साल का लड़का Zepto चलाता है, तो मैंने कहा वो भी startup चला रहा है. तो I mean, what's wrong with me? I mean, at the end of the day, with my age, with my knowledge, with my background, with my experience, what's wrong? I mean, you can't say कि उसके लिए 21 साल होना जरूरी है तो startup चलाए. So then I started working towards this. So Art of Working में I worked about designing and redesigning careers, started going to the corporate for training, and also started working as far as workshops were concerned. But my supply chain background again came into thing, and I used to always think ये मेरे DNA में घुस चुका है that I only will be doing supply chain. So my colleagues decided we need to create a supply chain consultancy firm. We created We Procure. Some of them people came out and said, can we start something from real sector, real estate sector for NRIs? So we created NRI Safe Home. And I am now working as a co-founder in India's one of the largest initiative to connect the unorganized retail sector to consumer. Our daily consumption needs are met by 80 to 90% by unorganized sector. आपका सब्जी वाला है, धोबी है, मोची है, नाई है, किराना है, रिक्शा वाला है, ठेले वाला है, आइसक्रीम पार्लर्स हैं, पकोड़े वाला है, कचौरी वाला है. आपके जो लोग basically people who wants to sell their certain skills of hobbies, of teaching or learning or apparel or designing, painting, a computer expert or probably a tax expert, उनके लिए कोई फोरम नहीं है. हम इनको सबको एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे ला रहे हैं. The name is called Nearji. In fact, it's just the app is about to be launched within a day or two. And I believe in every state of this, it will be in its local language and it will bring entire set of people onto single platform. So this is what it is. But best thing which I want to tell everyone who is attending is that every day I meet 12 to 14 startups. Every day, 6 days a week. और 7 डे जो ज्यादा लोग मेरे से वो हो जाते हैं, करीब हो जाते हैं, वो मेरे से एडवाइस लेने के लिए, डिस्कशन करने के लिए, एक मतलब समझने के लिए कि सर आगे क्या करें, वो संडे को ले लेते हैं. So I take 14 pitches a day. In these 14 pitches, I ensure that I list them in terms of their preparation, in terms of their readiness, in terms of investors' readiness and interest to invest in them. 2-3 चीजें मैंने जो बहुत हर स्टार्टअप में देखी, और आज तक मैंने कम से कम पिछले 2 महीने में 150 से 200 स्टार्टअप्स को मतलब ज्यादा ही कर दिया होगा. इनफैक्ट उनको तो मैंने शॉर्टलिस्ट कर दिया, उनसे मैंने इंटरेक्शन किया, फाउंडर से, को फाउंडर से. क्या चीजें हैं जो हमें एक्चुअली की हैं फॉर एनी स्टार्टअप? फर्स्टली, इन वॉट एवर यू डू, यू हैव टू बी वेरी गुड, राइट? It means that you need to have adequate knowledge of that particular thing before you start, because you can't learn. You can only improve on what you have. So start. If you want to start a startup, have that basic fundamentals. And also understand that startup is not the only thing. You want to do a job, doing a job is also good. But at the end of the day, it's a way of earning, right? But just because you do not find a good job doesn't mean you can't have a good startup. Most of the people whom I meet, I'm pretty surprised, वो first year, second year में engineering छोड़ चुके हैं. In fact, I had a meeting with the dean of Harvard, and that time when I met the dean of Harvard, he was an Indian gentleman, and first thing he told me is, Atul, what did I do wrong that I went to IIT? I should not have gone to IIT. I could have done all this much, without IITs also. So what I'm saying is, you can start and restart anything as long as you have adequate knowledge of that subject. एंड नॉलेज का मतलब ये नहीं था कि आप प्रोफेसर बन जाएंगे उस सब्जेक्ट में, लेकिन आपको एक फंडामेंटल नॉलेज, एक ग्राउंड की नॉलेज जरूरत है. व्हाट इज द सेकंड थिंग? हु आर द फाउंडर्स? मैं हमेशा कहता हूं लोगों को कि आप अकेले नहीं चालू कर सकते. हमेशा आपको एक टीम बनानी पड़ेगी, कुछ दोस्तों से बात करनी पड़ेगी, एक माइंडसेट वालों के साथ बात करनी पड़ेगी, एक टेक्निकल पर्सन के साथ बात करनी पड़ेगी, एंड दैट इज व्हेन इट विल कम अबाउट नेटवर्क. So when I talk to IFT students in last of my class, I spoke about a subject called what do you say after you say hello. हमें पता ही नहीं कि हम एक नेटवर्क को कैसे बनाते हैं, हम उन लोगों को कैसे रीच कर सकते हैं जो सक्सेसफुल हो चुके हैं, हम उन लोगों से कैसे सीख सकते हैं जिन्होंने ये सब चीजें गलत कर दिया उसके बाद दोबारा सीखा. हमारे पास में आज डिजिटल मीडिया अवेलेबल है, हमारे पास कनेक्टिविटी अवेलेबल है. वी कैन गो टू एनीवन हु यू वांट इन द वर्ल्ड अक्रॉस द ग्लोब एंड से कैन यू प्लीज हेल्प मी इन अंडरस्टैंडिंग. See, this is the reach of the digital media today. You can sit in India and talk to anyone in Brazil or United States, right? And third and foremost is how scalable is the model. हर इन्वेस्टर चाहता है कि उसका जो पैसा है 10 times हो जाए within matter of 3 years, 4 years. Ask anyone who invested in Zomato or say, Paytm at any initial stage. उसने 25,000 रुपए दिए थे या 2 लाख रुपए दिए थे, वो 2 लाख रुपए वो 100 करोड़ बना के दिखे. Right? So how scalable is the model? मतलब आप कितनी तेजी से. So technology is mandatory in a startup, and also understand the difference between a business and a startup. Walmart was a business, Amazon was a startup. Please understand this very, very clearly. There is there's a very clear distinction. You want to create a Bata-like thing where you want to have stores in your this thing, then it's a business. But when you are going to do something online which involves technology, does not have boundaries of nations and people, then it is called a startup, right? And startup is an amazing way of doing it. But also understand that 98% of startups actually fail, right? And why do they fail? So I have this nice list of, I just shared it within my WhatsApp group of startup founders and say, हमने एक ऐसा आइडिया चुना जिसको मार्केट की नीड ही नहीं थी. That is 42% startup do not understand what is market need. So जब भी मैं किसी की pitch देखता हूं तो पहली slide जो होती है वो होता है problem statement, and then second slide comes is solution statement. दुनिया में ये problem है, ये उसका solution है. फंडामेंटल है और उसके लिए बहुत सोचना पड़ेगा क्या प्रॉब्लम है. और कई लोग मुझसे आके ये भी कहते हैं कि सर सारे तो आइडिया खत्म हो गए, मैं क्या करूं. ऐसा नहीं है. इतनी प्रॉब्लम्स है दुनिया में, हर चीज की प्रॉब्लम है, रहने की, स्टे करने की, फाइनेंस. आज जब भारत पे आया तो क्या पेटीएम नहीं था क्या? आज अमेजॉन है तो क्या फ्लिपकार्ट नहीं है क्या? इट इज ऑलवेज. और बेस्ट थिंग हमेशा कमिंग सेकंड एंड थर्ड इज. जो लोग फर्स्ट आते हैं ना उनके साथ चैलेंज ज्यादा होता है, तो उनको सीखना पड़ता है. जो सेकंड थर्ड फोर्थ फिफ्थ आते हैं, जो 15th भी आएंगे ना, उनके लिए सबसे आसान है. ऑलरेडी रेडीमेड प्लेटफॉर्म है, उसको बोलना इसमें कितनी गलतियां, उसको मैं इंप्रूव करता हूँ. And be practical. So, basically is I will, stop here to give you some kind of break, because I can continue as much as you want, right? And another thing which I realize is not the right team. You run out of cash, get, out competed, you get, and then pricing and cost issue. So basically, if you start small with an idea, it takes around 2 to 3 years to reach at a place. Funding is not important. Funding will come automatically if your idea is good. People walk up to you and say, can I fund you? Right? So you need to work. सबसे पहले अपने सब्जेक्ट को पहचाने, उसके बाद उसके पर काम करें, उस पर रिसर्च करें, दुनिया की रिसर्च करें. पहले तो मुझे अगर कुछ समझना पड़ता था इस दुनिया के बारे में तो सर मेरे को तो लाइब्रेरी जाना पड़ता था. लाइब्रेरी में वो रेफरेंस बुक लेनी पड़ती थी. वो आधे टाइम इशू ही नहीं करते घर ले जाने के लिए. फिर भी उनसे बहुत दोस्ती करने के बाद एक आध बुक घर ले जा सकते वीकेंड में, और उसके बाद पढ़ना पड़ता. अब तो गूगल है. ब्राजील में क्या हो रहा है, फिलीपींस में क्या हो रहा है, कोरिया में क्या हो रहा है, वो घर बैठ के आप समझ सकते हैं. और अगर आपका स्टार्टअप माइंडसेट है तो आप नेटफ्लिक्स पे पिक्चर वीक में एक देखिए, पर बचे हुए 6 दिन जो है डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज देखिए। आप देखिए आईकिया कैसे बना, जारा कैसे बना, वी वर्क कैसे बना, और ये सारे जितने भी अपने पास में ओटीटी के प्लेटफॉर्म है उसमें डॉक्यूमेंट्री सेक्शन है। कल ही मैं उबर के बारे में पढ़ रहा था। जब उबर के बारे में पढ़ रहा और उबर की फर्स्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट में आया तो मैं डॉक्यूमेंट्री देख रहा था, उसके अंदर आई वाज वाचिंग हाउ डिड ही सेल दिस आइडिया, बिकॉज वो टैक्सी तो उसकी है ही नहीं। एंड देन सेकंड पॉइंट इज that how did he struggle with the actual taxi owners on ground, because they were a proper, वहां पे एक उनका अपना एक यूनियन था टैक्सीज का, who would not allow this to happen. And then you're getting an app, और वो ऐप जिसकी ग्राउंड में कोई एसेट नहीं है उस पे आप $1 million के आप फंडिंग करा रहे हैं, तो उबर ने कैसे किया, right? So you can please go ahead and whenever you want I can add as much as you want, but I can just tell you startup is a great thing to do. You don't have a boss, you don't have any commitment to anyone, लेकिन startup is a 48 hours job in a day. अगर आप कोई ये सोचता है कि मैं 1 घंटा 2 वीक में, ऐसा नहीं है। 48 घंटे एक दिन में काम करना पड़ता है। मैं इस डेस्क को नहीं छोड़ पाता रात के 12 बजे तक, और सुबह 7 बजे आके बैठ जाता हूँ। मेरे घर वाले दरवाजा बंद कर देते हैं, पागल आदमी को उसको अंदर रख दिया, अब ये रात को निकलेगा बाहर, खाना वाना अंदर पहुंचा देते हैं वो लोग। So that is the kind of dedication you have to put. If it is your idea, if it is your business and you're so committed to it, you can't leave it. It's obvious. नहीं तो आप नौकरी कीजिए, आराम से तैयार होइए, 10 बजे ऑफिस जाइए, 11 बजे तक कॉफी पीजिए, उसके बाद काम करिए, बॉस से मिल लिए, शाम को घर वापस आ जाइए, घर में आके आपके घर वाले कहेंगे बेटा थक गया, अब इसको खाना खिलाया जाए, ठीक है? Choice is yours. But if you want to be in startup, then it is all about mindset. Right? You got to prepare for startup. The entire life is to prepare for startup, because यहाँ ना कोई आपको ऑर्डर देगा, ना कोई इंस्ट्रक्शन देगा, ना आपको कोई डांटेगा। जो करना है वो आपने करना है, और टाइम फ्लाइज।
Thank you, Atul sir. Actually, I summarize you with a quote given by Steve Jobs. According to your personality, I say, stay hungry, stay foolish.
Absolutely. And every day मैं तो इतने लोगों से मिलता हूँ और इतने सीखता हूँ। आप लोग बोलेंगे आज मैं आप लोगों से सीखूंगा, because it always adds to what you are.
With your energy, this quote is perfectly suited to you, sir.
ना बिल्कुल, and please invite me for as many other discussion as possible besides startup, because I love talking to young people. It keeps you youthful all the time. I am connected to so many colleges, and it doesn't matter if it is Saturday or Sunday, when you are just interacting and helping people in their journey.
Sure, sir. Now I invite Bhavesh Kothari ji. Sir, actually, you wrote a book about the eves of odds out, against the odds, and that book is related to women entrepreneurship. And because there is so much failure in women entrepreneurship or womenpreneur, now the new term is womenpreneur. So what's your point? Because our maximum audience is girls. So what's your opinion related to that, and how you come up with an idea of writing a book related to that?
So first of all, thank you so much. I think both Colonel Sir and Bholanath ji have spoken about. Atul ji, thank you so much. I think you've put the very great context to the way startups are looking at, right? And I think Twinkle ji, you've already mentioned a very pertinent point. Look at the attendance today. I think we have more than 65 to 70% girls/women who have joined this particular session. That itself says that the rise of women in entrepreneurship was anyways inevitable, and that is what we had predicted 4.5, 5 years ago, that there will be obviously a huge rise in women coming on the forefront, not only from the workspace but also from the entrepreneurship area. That is where we formed Millennium Divas as a platform to nurture and encourage more women in entrepreneurship and in investment also. If you see the number of startup investors or angel investors in the country, it has been rising. Unfortunately, there is a very minuscule percentage of female investors in the country, and this is limited to both your hands. Not more than 10, 15 angel investors are there who are very active, who are women, right? So, with that mission of how do we change the dynamics from a percentage perspective of more women coming into entrepreneurship and more women coming into investment space, and that is where Billion Divas was formed way back in 2017 on the 17th November, where uh, Ivanka Trump had actually come down to India for a initiative called Road to Global Entrepreneurship Summit, which was at HICC in Hyderabad, and this is where we actually were one of the first initiators in the country to talk about women in entrepreneurship. Unfortunately, during that time, a lot of people spoke to us about saying that why do you want to create a separate distinguishing between a woman and a man entrepreneur? Entrepreneur is an entrepreneur, a startup is a startup. Why are you wanting to bifurcate between a man and a woman and talk about that? We said that look, we don't want to bifurcate, or we don't want to distinguish, or don't want to separate, gender from a gender perspective. What we want to do is we want to make sure that there is a separate platform to nurture and support more women entrepreneurs, because the challenges which these women entrepreneurs, or a challenge which a woman entrepreneur faces or a woman faces, is far different from their male counterpart, right? So that was the first thought behind that. The second thought is how do you make sure that you speak about women entrepreneurship, because statistics says that women entrepreneurs are far more successful than their male counterparts, and it also says that they are far more multitasking, they are far more responsible when it comes to managing money as well. And you pick up any research, this is the proof of the pudding. uh, and that is where we thought, why don't we create something where we could be able to feature those inspiring women? And that's where we launched this book called Eves Against the Odds. It is a compilation of 25 women entrepreneur stories. And one of the beautiful parts about this particular book is it has been co-authored by me and my colleague Hariharan Iyer. And the idea behind was that we will not write those stories, let it be, spoken up by those women entrepreneurs. We will just purely edit more from a language perspective or from a grammar perspective. And the top 25 were selected. We did not charge a single rupee from any woman entrepreneur to publish their stories. It was purely supported, by Brilliant Divas, and yes, we had BSc who supported this initiative. So the idea was to keep talking about it. Fortunately, we are now coming up with two more volumes, and maybe we will we're targeting 5 volumes by the end of 2022. So that was the purpose. Uh, the whole idea behind was that how can we not only just talk about successes, because I believe success is relative, failure is an orphan, right? So that is what is the problem with the industry. You find a lot of people talking about success stories. We are not taught to absorb failures. I think as a society we should start talking about why failures need to be spoken about, why they need to be acknowledged, because they are the stepping stones for the future success as well, right? So that is the whole idea behind that. And I know, as Atulji and Bholanath rightly mentioned, uh, today's startup ecosystem is very dynamic. But look at the kind of failure rates of startups, right? Uh, how many of them come back and say, "Hey, look, I failed not because I did not know what to do. I failed because I was not able to identify where the problem is." Sometimes what happens is, this is a human tendency. We try to find a problem in everything. rather than finding a solution to the problem. So I always say, it's better to not look at solving a problem, but it also is great to look at simplifying the challenges. The moment you simplify the challenges, the problem is solved, right? So that approach, that mindset has also, not been spoken about very openly. How many of us are, proud about our failures? I think that needs to be highlighted. There are many reasons for failures of a startup, and as Atulji mentioned, some of them are very, very pertinent. You either are too early in the market, you've not been able to do your research properly. You don't understand between a business and a startup. Uh, Another important aspect is co-founder conflicts. So there are n number of examples of why startups fail. Are you able to learn from others' mistake? Are you able to understand? It's always said that it's always good to know what your competitor does and why they do that. But how many of us are willing to understand what they don't do and why they don't do? Right. So there's also a learning from that. Why are they not doing this particular aspect of business, and what is the purpose why they are not doing that? Right. So we focus more on what the competitor does, but we don't focus on what they don't do and why they don't do that. So these are some of the various aspects of entrepreneurship, and it's a lonely journey. Right. If you have not traversed 1,000 days, I think you have not traversed at all. The real test comes after 1,000 days of your journey. So there are so many aspects of a startup. It is not just one wheel that drives the car. There are multiple dimensions. When you start, you are a president to peon. Everything is what you do, right? But how long can you stay that? So the world is moving faster. You need to move faster. If you're not visible on digital spaces, you don't exist.
Absolutely.
So all that, it's a compilation of lot many things. So as an entrepreneur, you as a startup founder, you wear multiple hats. Do you understand the difference between a founder and a CEO? So a founder is more of an innovator. He is more of a ideator. A CEO is more of an executor. It's not just about carrying a business card saying founder and CEO. There's more beyond that. So these are all a lot of aspects on that. So with that, I'll conclude my part of the discussion. Thank you so much.
Twinkle, just I will add something to what, Kothari ji has said, and I will tell you one thing.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
what he says is absolutely bang on. One thing which I would add to what he said is whenever I interact with startups, and if there is a lady is a co-founder, I find the startup to be much more stable, right? The fact is, but what happens is that, whenever a single lady start, there's a lot of reluctance to start, right? And there is always this thing where is it my kind of space? How many people are doing? I generally find boys doing all these kind of things, right? And that is the barrier which you need to mentally break it. There's no physical barrier. I mean, at the end of the day, there is equally people are treated. In fact, if the lady is there as a co-founder, she tends to have more involvement and tends to give better explanation than most of the guys, because they're trying to overlook a lot of things which a girl doesn't do. That she gets into nitty gritties and smallest aspects of every startup which they get into, right, or any aspect of work. But fact is, most of the women entrepreneurs, I find, is that initial barrier to break. I don't know. I mean, it has to be broken, because at the end of the day, the kind of hard work a girl puts in, or the deliberation they put in, the diligence they have into a thing is much, much better than. And then best of the thing about a startup is you can sit anywhere and do it. You don't have to travel in a bus. You don't have to travel in a, any other mode of transport. You can start at your home, find some friend, go to a coffee shop and start working. And 50% of India is women, right? 50% of the world is women. And they have equal, you can find, and you can find problems related to that. You can find new ideas related to that. And there's so much to be done in that sector. And you can come out with technology. And the best thing about the world now is the democratization. You don't have to be an IIM or IITs. In fact, most of the people who are startup, very very few of them are from IIT IIM. Though news में ज़्यादा आता है, but I've also seen people from very small institute, tier 3 cities coming up, and it's the only thing that they need to network and start understanding things how it is to be done. और आजकल तो लोग इतनी जल्दी कनेक्ट हो जाते हैं कि आप लिंक्डइन में अगर 4 लोगों को ढूंढेंगे तो आपको मिल जाता है.
You rightly mentioned, Atul sir, and thank you, Bhavesh sir. Now, I have our another topic is how these strategic planning. Uh, I found out that there's a term fear of structure. In this, when these companies or these startup make grows up and reach a particular point, how the founders or co-founders still maintaining that particular entrepreneurial spirit. Any panelist give the answer of that particular question? Professor Bholanath. Yes, sir, you are on mute. Sir, you are on mute, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Professor Bholanath. My last question, because it's already we cross 1 hour. Sir, does these SWOT analysis play important role in practical life also in startup ecosystem? Yeah, Atul sir, Bhavesh sir, anyone?
Hari, can you repeat that, Twinkle, please?
Yeah, sir. Actually, if we talk about the strategy, uh, in colleges or in B school, we taught them about the SWOT analysis of companies, of a startup culture. So, it does these SWOT analysis really help to the companies uh, to become successful
Yeah,
or to reduce the risk of failure?
Yeah. So basically, when you do SWOT analysis, you do it every day. You do it for everything which you do. अगर आप घर से बाहर भी निकलने जा रहे हैं ना, तो भी आप SWOT analysis mentally कर लेते हैं. ठीक है. उसमें आप देख लेते हैं कि which is the opportunity, what is the threat, what are various aspects of any decision you are going to take. So SWOT analysis, firstly, I mean, what are these steps? Firstly is working out an idea, finding one that particular thing which you think can work, and then you research and research and research, and that is very very important, because when you talk about strategy and tactics for a startup, strategy is too big a word, because you are at a very initial stage of seeding an idea. So
So that's why my question is, because in books it look good, but in real life or in practical life, I think sometimes you have to change the strategy day by day.
sir, जो word है ना, I use a word for startup, it's called evolutionary prototype.
Okay.
आप एक आइडिया जो है उसका उसका एक प्रोटोटाइप बनाते हैं, एक आइडिया बनाते हैं, और वो कंटिन्यूसली इवॉल्व होता है जैसे जैसे आप लर्न करते हैं, जो जो मिस्टेक्स करते हैं, जो जो चीज सीखते हैं, लोगों के साथ डिस्कशन करते हैं, तो जो आपका आइडिया है वो भी इट कीप्स इवॉल्विंग एवरी डे. It is never a stationary one set of thing that you started from here and you are going to be remain. Every even large multinational companies ले लीजिए, product based company ले लीजिए, they all are changing with the time. Similarly, a startup idea also keeps moving from one stage to another stage, and sometimes people just change totally. If you look into current story of Grofers, Grofers started at a very different way of doing it. Now they have changed the name to Blinkit,
Blanket.
right? So ऐसा नहीं कि वो ग्रोफर बदल गया या उसके फाउंडर चले गए, उन्होंने कहा ये आइडिया ठीक नहीं है. They evolved. What is the need of the market? And there is never a perfect idea. There is never a perfect idea. I always, use this word: start before you are ready, because you are never ready. Okay? There is never a perfect start. So you start with whatever you have and keep learning on the way.
Sure, sir.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. mistakes. Or failing. Thank you, sir. Sir, I like to add something. The NISP, that is National Innovation and Startup Policy, they give a in that particular policy, if some student have a good idea, even for the faculty also, they get a credit, and even in the NEP also. So in the academic point of view, government or also Minister of Education are also planning to implement startup and innovation culture ecosystem into the academic. Bhavesh sir, the last comment from your side, how to bounce back from your startup failures. If someone fail, how he or she bounce back from that failure.
Yeah. So
Your
I think
suggestion.
the first aspect is acknowledgement. As I always say, there is a thin line between attitude and arrogance, right? So you need to be able to understand that it is always going to have a chance of 50-50, right? You can have 50% failure or 50% success rate. Now, how do you change that ratio? Either ways is very, very important. Okay, so that's the first aspect. The second area is acknowledgement that nothing will always be foolproof. There might be chances of failures, and as Bolanaji said, right, it is the instances uh, at each aspect that is very, very important. And how do we acknowledge that, right? So what happens is when you are able to acknowledge that, look, uh, I want to succeed, but there might be chances of failures also, and where am I going to fail? Am I able to map that journey? That's the second aspect that needs to be kept in mind. And it's okay. I think we as a society have never acknowledged failures, right? So how do we bring in that mindset that, look, it's okay to fail? And this starts with from the childhood. We as parents have always been conservative and always been protective of our kids. I think that mindset needs to be changed. That it's okay. There's always a second chance. Trust me, 7% of the suicide cases are because of this.
Yes.
It will definitely change this particular perception the moment we say, look, it's okay to fail. That there's no shame. There's no harm in that. Okay, we need to teach our kids. I think we should have a syllabus itself where we say, okay, failures are great learning experiences, and we should definitely include as a part of this particular stage, because it also leads to a lot of mental and emotional challenges within the ecosystem as well. And especially with entrepreneurs, the pressure is very high, because what happens is, there is a societal pressure, there is a peer pressure, there is a pressure from the friend circle and the society, that, look, oh, I started my journey by leaving a very cushy job, but am I going to be able to succeed in that? I think it's okay. Gone are the days when organizations don't accept people who have started their businesses and they've failed, and now they want to go back to the work. I think those days are gone now. People who are innovative, people who are ready to take challenges are far more accepted in the society, in the world. I think that's a great way. Last but not the least, I believe that, and this is a very great statement, and it's a personal favorite of mine, which says it's better to try and fail rather than fail to try. I think that fear of losing out needs to be let go, right? So one of the classic examples I take is, a lot of people don't start their business because they feel that idea will be taken away. I think and it's a known fact that you can't even if you copy the idea, the whole aspect is execution. And it's not only me. I think before that, there are a lot of mentors who have been talking about it. And I remember 10 years ago, when I started talking about mentoring, people used to say, what do you mean by that? Today I think everyone talks about mentoring. So you know do you have a foresightedness, in terms of where your industry is moving? And I think it's a mix of a lot of aspects, the right kind of approach, the right kind of mentoring, guidance. Mind you, mentoring is not free. I don't believe in free mentoring. It should never be free in the first place, because if you are running a business and if you're taking someone's advice, and if you're going to make money out of it, why should it be free then? So it's a very simple logic. So with that, I submit that failure should be one of the areas that we should keep talking about it, and we should keep acknowledging about it.
Thank you, Kothari sir. And actually, I am very delightful or happy कि I share the platform with Bhavesh sir, Atul sir, and Bholanath sir. We will continue this discussion sometime in future on offline mode, 101 in our campus. And I invite you, sir, for that. And
Sure,
sir, I
sure.
conclude my session. We know we discuss here about the failure or startup failure. I always remember one person, Walt Disney, because he failed a lot, but he never uh, he learned from that particular failure. So all our dream can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. And the term elevator pitch comes from the Walt Disney.
Okay.
So thank you, Bhavesh sir, Atul sir, and Bholanath sir for your auspicious time and on that particular Sunday. So now over to Nana or IIC team.
I had I had like to take some time to thank all our speakers for such an insightful session. The Institution Innovation Council extends sincere gratitude to Mr. Bhavesh Kothari, Mr. Atul Holkar, Professor Bholanath Dutta, and our moderate Mr. Twinkle Sachin for delivering this insightful session today and sharing your knowledge with us and inspiring us to follow our dreams, to have a successful startup even if the going gets tough. Thank you for taking out the time from your busy schedule and joining us. We are grateful for the learning experience that you provided. We extend our deepest thanks to our principal ma'am, Dr. Payal Mago, for being our pillar of support and strength. We would like to extend our heartiest thanks to all the teachers for their constant support and motivation. Last but not the least, we would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to the audience for showing your key interest in the webinar. We hope it provides you with a great learning outcome.
Naina,
Thank
I will just add one thing before we say bye. This let's start today. Network with Professor Mr. Kothari, myself on LinkedIn. Start connecting to people. You are never too late to start. Start from today, and suddenly you will find yourself in a different level altogether.
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye bye.
I would also request all of you to please switch on your camera so that we can take a group picture. Yeah, that's it. Nisha, you can stop presenting. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
All
Thank you
the
so much.
best. God bless you, girls.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.